We'll officially call the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners meeting to order for Tuesday, May the 10th at 1:30 p.m. Ottawa County seeks to be a warming, welcoming place where you belong. Recognizing that we are a county of many different faiths and traditions, our invocation today is offered from one of the perspectives. I will now introduce today's invocation guest. Reverend Mike Peters is an ordained Christian minister and has been in full-time ministry for 40 years. He is a citizen of the Little Traverse Bay Band of Ottawa. He travels across North America as a keynote speaker and teacher and represents a Native American ministry called Four Fires Ministries. Ottawa County took its name from the Ottawa Native Americans who occupied this area in the middle of the 17th century. We welcome Mike Peters.
Thank you. You'll get my bill for rent. Welcome to my land. So thank you for the warm welcome. And I guess I need to give you the Reader's Digest version of what we do when we come together to conduct business, do council things. When Matt asked me if I would consider doing the invocation, I thought, well, I don't know what that is first as a Native American. But as I thought about coming and being a part and honoring, what I'm going to do is a ceremony that we do for whenever we get together, whenever leadership gets together, that we all are on the same page, we're all in unity, and we leave our feelings, and we leave our animosity, we leave all of those things outside of this circle that's going to be represented here. And so I normally just do this and everybody knows what I'm doing, but this is the first time you have ever seen a Native ceremony in this manner. So I'm going to really fast in a couple minutes. I'm going to start with three things. In Native tradition, sage, cedar, sweetgrass. The sage drives out the evil spirits, the cedar keeps them out, and the sweetgrass invites good spirits in. As an ordained minister, as I thought about these three things that drive out, keep out, invite in. As a Christian, what does three represent to us? The Trinity. And as I thought about redeeming my culture, the presence of God does that. It drives out the evil things. And the Holy Spirit is what keeps and invites in. And so it might be a time-honored generational tradition. All I'm doing today is recognizing God's presence here in this circle, and that we leave behind as His presence comes in. We leave anything that's, and I know that as humans come together, you're discussing things, there's different opinions and things, but we come here to seek the unity of the body, and that's what my ancestors did. There are recollections on the Grand River where my ancestors would come together and lay down head first in a circle and not move until they felt the Spirit had settled everything. Then they'd get up and conduct business. And so I am going to do this ceremony. Then I am going to smoke prayers. I don't know what's on your agenda. I don't know what side you're on. I don't know if you're in the middle. I don't know anything. That's great. But as I offer up this prayer, and none of these things will light off your smoke detector. I've never, well, I can't say that one time. Our Auschwitz funeral home, there was so much smoke, people were smoking so much of this that it set off the fire. What I'm gonna do, we'll go a couple of feet, just be gone. So do not worry about that. But I will say that centuries before the Bible got here in 1640 in Michigan, my ancestors would smoke prayers. And they would say these words: as the smoke goes up, the Creator's blessings come down. And I thought about that. God answers prayer. And that's what my prayer is for this body, this condition. That as I smoke your prayers, God's blessing is going to come down. Because if there ever was a time when we needed God's blessings in government, now's the day. As you lead this area forward, recognizing the past to build for the future, I'm praying that God will bless your efforts. I don't know what side you stand on, but this is how I present things. And so I want you to experience it with that simple understanding of things. I do use a white man fire stick. People ask me if you're really, you strike it. Because here you do. So you'll be here all day if you want me to strike a spark to light this stuff. But with that, let's, as my ancestors would say at this moment, let's together and our spirits together to get that one road that we walk together, this road of honor and this road of peace. I didn't mention to you that we use the eagle feather, which is our prayer. This is when that scares the people the most. It's not happening. Because there is a little bit of a flame. It's the one they like the most, but it smells the best. Now with the area cleansed, our heart's getting in order. I don't know what's on your mind. I don't know what you're going to be doing today, what you're going to be trying to push through, whatever. But take those thoughts. And I mix them symbolic. I mix them in tradition. It's a 5 herbal blend only used for prayer, not recreationally. Revelation 8:4 says, as the prayers of the saints mingled with the smoke from the golden censer rose up into the throne room of God. I'm believing that your prayers, as your prayers go up, your blessing is going to come down. I'm going to leave you with what is equivalent to our benediction. And like many Hebrew words, it's only one word, but it has many meanings to it. Bima dazalim. Bima, like bima see. Bima dazalim. It is, may you have a long life, a good life, a life free from sickness and disease. That's my prayer for you. I pray that as I've gathered you in, you can now proceed with one mind and one heart in unity. Even though we might disagree, we are still in unity. Present that front for your people that are here. So I thank you for allowing me. I want to end with a song. If you'll allow me to end with a song. I've gone over 3 minutes. I know I'm on late time. Well, hey, hey, oh. Well, hey, 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 oh. Way on, way on, way on, hey, oh. Way on, way on, way on, hey, oh.
Thank you, Reverend Mike. Justin, will you do the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Garcia.
Here.
Mr. Baumann.
Here.
Mr. Zylstra.
Here.
Mr. Dannenberg.
Here.
Mr. Meppeling.
Here.
Mr. Terpstra.
Here.
Mr. Holfleur.
Present.
Mr. DeYoung.
Here.
Mr. Kyers.
Here.
Mr. Bergman.
Here.
And Mr. Fenske.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Next, we have presentation, petitions and communications from your office.
None from us, sir.
We have two outstanding customer service awards. And I would ask John Braxmeyer to please come to the podium. Congratulations.
Thank you.
John has received the External First Quarter Outstanding Customer Service Award for 2022. His nomination states, "I have worked with John for many years. John always promptly returns my calls and emails and went above and beyond. It has been refreshing to work with someone in his position that is willing to assist with solutions. John exemplifies self way above. He approaches every issue with how can I help attitude. The environment he has created in his department is refreshing, not one typically found in today's world. John is valuable to the department, county, and state. Thank you, John, for your contribution to the Ottawa County's success and to your willingness to serve others." Next, from Facilities Management, Blake Upright. Congratulations, Blake.
Thanks, Matt.
Blake has received the Internal First Quarter Outstanding Customer Service Award. His nomination states, Blake jumped right into the HVAC project at the Hudsonville building as soon as he started working for Ottawa County. He has listened to the concerns of his staff in Hudsonville as to the care and cleaning of the building and has addressed the concerns. Blake also addressed the snow plowing and sidewalk clearing that has been an issue in Hudsonville for years. Apparently, it's been a problem. Thank you, Blake. Your dedication to serving the residents and staff of Ottawa County is truly appreciated. Congratulations. Okay, next we have someone from Grand Valley State University, Outstanding Supervisor of the Year Award for one of our own, Robin Afric, and Cindy Brown and Christy Scallion are going to be presenting that award. Welcome, ladies.
Good afternoon. My name is Christy Scanlon, and I am the Employer Relations Coordinator in the Career Center at Grand Valley State University. I would like to thank the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners for allowing me to be in attendance for today's meeting. I am here today to formally present and recognize Robin Africk, Ottawa County Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Director, as the 2022 GVSU Outstanding Internship Supervisor of the Year. Robin, would you please join me at the podium? Every year, the Career Center, in partnership with our university provost and academic colleges, hosts the GVSU Internship Award Program. This program is held to recognize and celebrate the commitment to experiential learning from our community and employer partners, faculty, staff, and students. This year, we received over 75 nominations for Supervisor of the Year, which is incredible given that it was another year of unpredictability in the world of experiential education and internships. The Selection and Review Committee had the exciting challenge of reading and evaluating all of the nomination letters, which can prove to be difficult as there were numerous nominations that spoke very highly of their supervisors and their overall internship experience. Some of the common themes that were found in the nomination letters included supervisors who went above and beyond to connect their interns to professionals in the community, supervisors who took the time to learn their career interests of the intern and then created opportunities to help them grow and develop, supervisors who were intentional in assisting their intern in developing crucial skills and talents to deepen their own learning. When the Selection and Review Committee got to Robin's nomination letter, it was evident that she was unique. She not only provided an exceptional internship experience, but she made a deep and lasting impact on her intern and helped to shape them as a new professional. Robin was nominated by Jesse Harris, a public and nonprofit administration student who worked with Robin during the previous academic year. I would like to share a few lines from the nomination letter that really made an impact on the selection committee. Quote, "When I started my internship, I was unsure of where I saw myself after graduation. This position was my first experience in local government, and Robin gave me countless opportunities to gain new experiences and to learn from a variety of people throughout my time in Ottawa County." End quote. Here's another quote. Quote, "I have learned many lessons from Robin, but one of the most important that I will take with me is to meet people where they are at. DEI work can sometimes be filled with battling opinions, judgments, and high emotions. However, Robin taught me the importance of seeking to understand first and to find common ground, an incredibly important leadership skill that I will carry with me throughout my career." End quote. And finally, quote, "Through my internship experience, I know I want to pursue a career in government and will navigate my future work through a DEI lens." End quote. At this time, it is my honor to present Robin Africk with the 2022 Outstanding Supervisor of the Year Award. Just want to say congratulations, Robin, and thank you for your dedication and commitment to experiential learning, to being a positive mentorship in your continuous work in the DEI space. Thank you very much.
Yay.
I think we're taking a picture. Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you much. Next, we have a presentation from Mark White, CEO of Shape Corporation. And I'm going to give you a little bio information first before Mr. White will address us. Mark White is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Shape Corporation. He has extensive international business experience and strategic growth market development expertise. His 27-year career in the automotive industry began at Dow Chemical, followed by General Electric Company, working in several commercial and product development positions. He joined Shape Corporation in 2000 as Vice President of NetShape International, a startup plastics venture affiliated with Shape. In 2008, Mark was promoted to Shape Corp Vice President and Managing Director of European Operations and relocated to Frankfurt, Germany to lead the development of the European business. In 2011, he moved to Prague in the Czech Republic to start the manufacturing plant operations and European regional headquarters for Shape Corporation. In 2013, he assumed the role of Executive Vice President and was responsible for leading all international business units and was a member of the Executive Leadership Council advising the President on long-term company strategy. In October of 2006, Mark was promoted to the role of President of Shape Corporation. In February of 2019, Mark assumed additional responsibilities and was elected President and Chief Executive Officer and a member of the Verplank Enterprise Board of Directors. Mark received his Bachelor of Business Administration from Western Michigan University in 1992 before completing his MBA from Michigan State University in 2000. Mark's executive education also includes extension programs at both the University of Chicago and the University of Minnesota. Mark and his wife, Amy, live in Norton Shores, Michigan. They have 3 daughters, Madeline, Carolyn, and Audrey. In their free time, they enjoy skiing, hiking, golf, and traveling internationally. We welcome Mark White.
Chairperson Pensky, thank you very much for the kind introduction. And commissioners, thank you for welcoming me here today to speak to you about our company, Shape Corp, and our efforts in DE&I. I thought it was very appropriate, Reverend Mike, for his blessing and his words around unity, because when I think about our efforts at Shape Corp for DE&I, it really comes back to that for us as well. It's about unity within our company and unity with our team members. I thought what I would start with is to give you a brief introduction around our company, just a little bit of background, and then I'll speak to you about what we're doing in the area of DE&I specifically. So for us, everything starts with our purpose, our vision, and our core values. And the purpose of our company is to empower people to shape technology, to shape lives, and to shape communities. And that purpose is really built on a foundation, our core values. And we take those core values very seriously inside of our company. We promote them, we talk about them, we hire and develop around them. And our core values are respect, development of the person, accountability, community, and giving back to the communities in which we live and work, and also the pursuit of excellence in everything we do. Our company was founded in Grand Haven nearly 50 years ago. In fact, last month we celebrated our 48th year in business, and we were founded by Gary Verplank and Midge Verplank and a few other individuals that are pictured here in the slide. But it was a group of individuals that came together not only for a business purpose, but for really a community purpose around developing people and making a positive impact in the community. And we've continued to live that in our company through our 48-year history. And today, we operate around the world. We have annual sales of approaching $1 billion. And we are primarily in the automotive business, and we do business direct with all of the major auto manufacturers worldwide. We have 11 production plants worldwide, 6 in the Grand Haven area. And one thing I would highlight to you as far as the number of team members, we have over 4,000 worldwide, but nearly 1,500 or over 1,500 are working in Grand Haven. And we continue to operate here in West Michigan in Grand Haven as our largest division of our company. It's also a division that continues to grow, and we continue to invest here in our West Michigan community. It's a vital piece of our company that is important for our ongoing success. Here's a little bit of some of just a picture of the products of what we do. So the way I like to describe it to people who ask, well, what does SHAPE actually do? Some of us know us here locally in the community as a roll former, where we bend and form ultra high strength steel metal. The way I describe it to people is, when we're in the automotive industry, you think about the skeleton of the car, the functional skeleton of the car. We actually provide the structure underneath that protects occupants from crash and provides lightweight body structure and crash protection. And we do that with various types of materials, from plastics, engineered thermoplastics, carbon fiber, ultra high strength steel. We form the highest grades of steel you can buy on the planet, to advanced aluminum alloys. So it's a multi-material approach. We invest heavily in R&D and engineering, and we have a large R&D and tech center in Grand Haven as well. Now let's speak about the business case here for DE&I. When I explain DE&I as it relates to SHAPE Corp, what I go back to is the purpose of our company around shaping lives and making an impact in our community and with our people. And that is where it starts. And it's not a new thing for us. This is something we've been working on for 48 years. And when we think about it, we also think about our culture, and we refer to our culture of our company as the SHAPE family culture. And that permeates worldwide. And it's really interesting to see in places in all corners of the world, from Kunshan, China and Guangzhou, China, to Pilsen, Czech Republic, to Querétaro, Mexico. The people who work for our company outside of Grand Haven feel the impact of the SHAPE family culture. They want that. It resonates toward them. And we ask ourselves, well, why is that? Why do they resonate with the SHAPE family culture? And we believe a large element of that is the inclusion component of our company. Family is about unity. Family is about inclusion. Family is about being open to be able to show up as you are and be who you are and bring your best to the opportunity. It also means that we can have disagreements, and we can argue, and we can disagree, but we do it with love and respect for each other. And that's what we believe in as our SHAPE family culture, and that's where inclusion is really at the heart of our culture. So when I think about DE&I, it's something I think about that we've been working on for a very long time. It's not a new topic, and it's not just about trying to find people to fill jobs. And it's not just because it's the cool thing to talk about these days. It's an imperative to maintaining the health and wellness of our company. It's an imperative to maintaining our competitiveness and our innovative spirit. And there are many, many studies. Here are some statistics. I know you've all seen many of those similar type of statistics. I just wanted to pull a few of them that I was interested in. I just would highlight to you. So there's many, many studies around the business case. A couple that just have come to mind here for me. There's a recent study by Deloitte where it showed that high growth brands, meaning brands that have annual revenue increases of at least 10%, are 2 times more likely to have a diverse and inclusive environment related to their talent objectives as compared to negative growth brands. The Harvard Business Review recently came out with a study. Diverse companies are 70% more likely to capture a new market audience and to be more innovative in their product offering. Here's a recent study from Glassdoor. 57% of employees and 67% of job seekers consider diversity an important element in their workplace, which affects recruitment and retention. And we're seeing that at our company as well. So for us, not only is it the right thing for us to do relative to our culture and our foundation and the purpose of our company, but there's also a very, very strong business case to be made. And every one of my peers that I speak to across our industry and the automotive industry are also working on the same thing and believe in the same thing. We have to compete globally. It requires great ideas. It requires teams that are working well together. And again, I think back to the unity message. To me, that's what it's all about. So we all know and are very aware of our labor challenges here in our country and here particularly in West Michigan. We have a very talented labor pool. We have a number of very, very strong companies. We're blessed to be operating here in a great county of Ottawa County that offers a lot of opportunity, but we have our challenges. This is some information that came from a recent labor study, Michigan labor market study through Talent 2025. Millennials, minorities, and women suffered a disproportionate job loss and exited the labor force through the pandemic, and we know that continues. We're seeing increased preference toward part-time work, especially among prime-age men, which is contributing to a shrinking labor force. We're feeling that in our business every day. There's an acceleration of retirement, particularly among the baby boom population at the onset of the pandemic. Population growth really is not in our favor here, so to speak. And we can continue to see challenges relative to shortage of low-cost housing, transportation, and childcare. Those are some big issues that we think about, we're trying to solve as a company. And I would also certainly welcome more dialogue with the commission and with other business leaders here in the county on how we could do that together and collaboratively. So we know those challenges exist. And we know that when we have an inclusive environment at SHAPE, it's going to give us an opportunity to attract wider, broader labor pools. We know that our customers not only want to know about it, they demand it today. Today, our global customers require us actually to report out on our efforts around DE&I, not in a negative way, I would say. They want us to report out on it because they also care about it and they're working heavily on it, and they want their supply base to be contributing, and they want to share best practices. So we're reporting regularly to our customers on our DE&I efforts as a company. Our people, we also know, expect it. So recently we did a pulse survey with the 1,500 people we have working in Grand Haven, and an overwhelming majority, over 80%, when we asked the question, do you care about DE&I? Does it matter? Do you really care about it? Over 80% responded absolutely yes. And we know particularly in the younger generations, they want to work for companies that are sustainable, that are giving back to the communities, and that are inclusive of all types of people inside of the company. And we know that from our data. And we also know it's the right thing from a community standpoint. And our perspective is, our company is a reflection of the community in which we live and work. And we continue to want to be great community partners, and we want to partner with all of you and all of your districts and how we can continue to be good partners together. So we know it makes sense from that perspective as well. About 2 years ago, knowing the importance of all of this at SHAPE Corp, we formed what's called an Inclusion Advisory Board. And this board is made up of both outside directors, subject matter experts, as well as internal stakeholders from all areas of the company. And we work as a group to really promote the topic of inclusion and diversity and equity inside of our company. And we talk about difficult topics. We're not perfect. We recognize that. We recognize we have a lot of work to do, and that this isn't an annual initiative. This is what we do, and it's a long-term continuous improvement idea and process that we follow. So the IAB board helps guide our company's efforts and strategies on that improvement path. And here are some of the areas that we focus on. So for example, sponsorship, leadership, and accountability. My belief is that it starts at the top with leadership. If we want a vibrant culture in our company and an inclusive culture in our company, I believe it starts with me and my executive team leading by example. So we have to set the example, and it's a strategic business imperative for us. And all of our leaders are held accountable to DE&I goals. We also talk about our culture of learning and development. We want 100% team member satisfaction with psychological safety and sense of belonging. All leaders regularly demonstrating behaviors of cultural intelligence and inclusion. We also then have to integrate these into our talent development and our evaluation processes. And we have to have benefits and rewards that also help promote DE&I. And workforce composition and access to equity. We need pay equity, for example. We need to make sure that we're looking at all of our data and treating everyone in a fair and equitable manner. And then, of course, we're looking to build more community partnerships as well. And I hope today is just a start of that conversation for us as a company and with all of you as commissioners here in Ottawa County. Here's our Dni statement. Shape Corp is committed to creating a workplace where all team members are empowered to bring their whole selves to work each day. This commitment is unwavering and embodied in our company core values, policies, and the way we interact with each other, our customers, and our communities. As thinkers, believers, and doers, we believe that the sum of our individual differences and experiences make us stronger. We are counting on each of you as SHAPE team members to act as a voice for diversity and inclusion within SHAPE and our broader community. Thank you very much. I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Gentlemen, any questions for Mr. White?
I have a question.
Mr. Garcia?
Mark, thank you for being here. How do you get the word equity with inclusion?
Could you repeat the question,
I said,
please?
how do you get the word equity with inclusion? Because our DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. So how does SHAPE incorporate that into their IBA?
Equity.
IAB, I'm sorry.
Yeah, equity would come in many forms. One example I would give would be, for instance, in pay equity, based on role and position, and making sure that we have pay equity across all of the roles and positions, and that those are clearly defined. Another great example of equity would be when we're posting for new jobs, making sure that we have a diverse slate of candidates that are well representative of the population in our company and the population within our community, for example. Thank you.
Any further questions?
Thank you for coming.
I appreciate the
Thank you,
opportunity.
Mark.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Next is our time for public comment. Please give your name, and you can give your address also, and limit your comments to 3 minutes, please.
And the first public comment on our list is Terry White.
Hello, I'm Terry White, Robinson Township. I have questions about the structure and work product of the DEI office. The fourth paragraph in their website states the funding of the office is a combination of public, private, and nonprofit dollars. That in itself looks a little dicey. But then I find the national partners and sponsors. This is where Gateway for Growth, New American Economy, and Welcoming America are listed. All these funds are Michael Bloomberg owned. So Ottawa County applies for Gateway for Growth Award, which it receives November 2020. This opens the door for new American economy. Keep in mind, Ottawa County small business community has not been invited to sit at this table. Then the Gateway for Growth Steering Committee is created to help the DEI office get Ottawa County to the goal of being certified as a welcoming county. From what I see on the first page of the DEI annual report, it seems that to be their main work product. This plan to get to the plan using data from Michael Bloomberg. So you, as commissioners, have 2 offices of this Fillmore complex that taxpayers have paid for, working on this work product currently. Kent County has finished theirs, a 36-page report, with all these recommendations that look to be costly. Since you have not invited small businesses to be in on this plan, maybe the funding for these new demands can come from your own pockets. It took Kent County 9 months to get their plan completed. I'll be waiting to see how long the Gateway for Growth Steering Committee and the DEI finish their final work product. I am thinking you could have saved taxpayer money by just reading the results from Kent County, seeing this whole movement is unelected ideas from Michael Bloomberg. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
It's all the listed public comment we have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, anybody else in the audience would like to make public comment? Okay. Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion for approval of our agenda.
So moved.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. Holtvluwer,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Terpstra,
Yes.
Mr. Meppeling,
Yes.
Mr. Baumann,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Next is our action and reports. Consent resolutions, Commissioner Dannenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to approve consent resolutions 1 through 7. Support.
There's a motion and support for approval of the consent resolutions. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Terpstra,
Yes.
Mr. Meppeling,
Yes.
Mr. Holtvluwer,
Yes.
Mr. Baumann,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Next is the time for a public hearing, and I'm going to call upon Commissioner Kyers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Move to, motion is to open the public hearing to receive comments on the adoption of the final 911 service plan.
Support.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Baumann,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Meppeling,
Yes.
Mr. Terpstra,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Holtvluwer,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes,
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Okay.
make a motion to close the public hearing on the adoption of the final 911 service plan.
Second.
Did we have anybody in the audience that wanted to speak in regards to the public hearing?
That's what I was wondering. I was gonna ask if there was anybody.
I guess not anybody online that wants to address regarding the 911 service plan?
We do have one hand raised for public comment. We have Megan, Ryan, and looks like we are having some difficulty with Megan. Megan, if you are there, I'll go ahead and to move some things around to allow you to talk. Our regular public comment is on Zoom at the end of the meeting, but if you have any public comment for this hearing, feel free to add that. Sorry, Megan.
She's muted.
I had a regular public comment, not on the 911 hearing.
Well,
Okay, I had a regular public comment, not on the 911 hearing, so I'll wait.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks so much.
Thank you, Megan. Anybody else? Mr. Clerk?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
I'll repeat my motion to close the public hearing on the adoption of the final 911 service plan.
I second it.
any further discussion? Can I do a voice vote on this one?
Yes, sir.
All those in favor of closing the public hearing for the 911 service plan indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, that motion carries.
I'll move on to action C, the final 911 service plan. And the motion is to approve and authorize the board chairperson and clerk register to sign the resolution and final 911 service plan for Ottawa County pursuant to the Emergency Telephone Service Enabling Act.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Kyers.
Yes.
Mr. Holtluer.
Yes.
Mr. Meppelink.
Yes.
Mr. Terpstra.
Yes.
Mr. Garcia.
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra.
Yes.
Mr. Bergman.
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg.
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung.
Yes.
Mr. Baumann.
Yes.
And Mr. Fenske.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Next, I'm going to call upon Commissioner Dannenberg to address the appointment of Frank Garcia to Facility Review Subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a motion to appoint Frank Garcia to the Solid Waste Planning Committee's Faculty Review Subcommittee. Support. Want a little explanation on a little bit of that?
Sure.
Uh,
You want to give it or?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
well-
don't let him do it. You do it.
Okay. I'm on the solid waste committee, and there's a company or a group that wants to start a recycling center in Zealand Township, and that is my district. And under the solid waste bylaws, whenever there's a discussion about a refuge center, whatever, who's ever on that committee, and if it's in your district, you have to excuse yourself and get another commissioner on there. And that's what Frank is filling in right now.
Does he have any experience?
Yes.
And what would that be?
I do have a question because actually I was initially
Yep.
right in the role that Al was, and I had to dismiss myself because the issue was regarding something in one of my townships. So I guess my question, John, is this a bylaw that is a county bylaw? Is it a health bylaw? Because it seems like we're dancing around trying to avoid stepping on each
It's a
other's.
requirement in the solid waste management plan, the Ottawa
State?
County Solid Waste Management Plan, which is a plan that's required under Part 115, which is a state statute. So basically that facility review subcommittee is a subcommittee of the Solid Waste Planning Committee. And it's composed of 5 individuals, and it's a member of this board. As long as that commissioner does not represent the district of where this is taking place. It also includes an elected official of the host community, so someone from Zealand Township, a local government representative of the Solid Waste Planning Committee, not from the host community, a general public representative, and an environmental representative. So that's just one of the requirements on our solid waste management plan, at least for just the facility review committee. And this committee just looks at this proposal and determines if it's consistent with the goals of our solid waste management plan.
And I guess my question is, I know that none of us were probably aware when that language was put into those bylaws. I guess I'm trying to understand why that piece of language was written in there, because we really don't play that important of a role in there. You know, we're there to review and most likely could go in and vote in favor of whatever the plan is if it's approved by the departments. So I guess my question is to avoid dancing around every time that there's an issue, whether it's in my district or your district, can the bylaw language be changed to eliminate that, or is there a conflict at the state level as well?
Honestly, I don't know, and I'd have to check to see if
Okay.
that's something the state law requires, or if that's something simply in our county solid waste
And
management.
I don't
plan.
mind dancing with Al, but
Yeah. I'm
Actually, I do,
speculating
but-
here a bit, obviously, but they have a representative from the township that serves on this committee, and they may want a commissioner that represents the rest of the county, just to make sure it's not just this super localized representation.
Is I'm on this committee from Frank because we're dealing with the Southwest landfill, okay, which is in Frank's decision. I did have a small meeting with Kim this morning, and some of this is coming forward again, but to change that, the bylaws, all the rules and everything, it has to be approved by every municipality or township.
2/3. So and we're looking at amending the solid waste management plan. So in order to amend the plan, not only does this board have to say, yeah, we want to amend it, but 2/3 of the local units then have to approve it. And then the state of Michigan
That's right.
has to approve amendments to our plan. And so most amendments, and we're going through this right now in terms of proposing a county materials fee, separate issue, but it's about a 12 to 18 month
Yep.
process to amend it. So it's a pretty
Thankfully,
lengthy
Yeah.
process. What I don't know is if the Part 115, the state statute requires this language in the plan.
Okay.
I'd have to find that out. I
they
don't know.
said
Good to
that
John, I can answer that question.
take up to 9 months to get it approved.
And I think I hear Doug Van Essen on Zoom.
Yes. Yeah.
Doug, were you trying to say something?
Yeah, yes, I am. I'm trying to answer Commissioner Garcia's question. And the answer here is that the state's regulations require that language that's in our plan. Part 115 was actually a fairly enlightened piece of legislation. It took local control, land use control away from local government in the siting of landfills and recycling stations, because they were local land use control led to so few of those facilities being cited because no one wanted them in their community. So they took that away, put it in the county and the state, and the state then promulgated regulations that really prescribed local input, but not too much local input. And that's why you have one representative of the host community. You have another commissioner, which presumably Frank brings some political savvy to the citing committee without a direct political involvement. And so it's a highly calibrated local community committee. And while it doesn't ultimately have outcome determinative powers, it's very influential in this whole citing process, the ultimate decisions by the state of Michigan. So yeah, it's not something we can change. And it's frankly something that's worked well throughout the state over the course of the years. We now have plenty of landfills, we have plenty of facilities, and in part it's due to this dispersion a little bit of local political control.
Okay, thank you for that. Just another example of something we don't have control over, basically.
We have a motion on the floor, and I think we had a second, did we not, Mr. Clerk?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I can tell Frank's very excited, so why don't we get on with this vote?
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Holvlor,
Yes.
Mr. Baumann,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Meppeling,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Terpstra,
Yes.
and Mr. Fensky.
Yes.
You ready for the announcement?
Yeah, I just want to say I'm honored.
Should we applaud? You want us to applaud?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, appointments, none. And we have 4 discussion items in the queue. So our first presentation will be by our County Sheriff, Steve Kempker. Welcome, Mr. Sheriff.
Good afternoon. Chose not to do a PowerPoint because Justin and Joe paid me off to yield more time to them this afternoon. Again, it's an honor and privilege to be here. Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners, and Mr. County Administrator. It's my pleasure and honor to present to you the 2021 annual report of the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office. You have been provided a copy of this comparative summary that should have been in front of you when you arrived today, and the full annual report will be on our website shortly after this meeting. Also, the report is also sent out to each of our jurisdictions, the townships, cities, and village that all of you represent. So they will also have a copy. And again, if you have any questions after today, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. As many of you know, the Sheriff's Office primary mission is to provide a safe and secure environment in Ottawa County by preserving public order, reduce crime, and provide safe and secure environments in our communities by way of constitutional policing. Victims of crime continue to be our top priority. Our goal is to identify, understand, and address issues in our communities. And again, we accomplish this through collaborative efforts, problem solving, and working very closely with our citizens, our community partnerships, and other organizations in and out of Ottawa County. I think you have all had the opportunity at some point to look at our mission statement, our core values and vision. Members of the Sheriff's Office work through professionalism, respect, integrity, dedication, excellence, equality, and diversity. In the annual report in front of you, you have a new style of an organizational chart that we've adopted at the Sheriff's Office. If you take a look at this organizational chart, you'll notice it's upside down, and that's not a mistake. The purpose of the inverted leadership pyramid is to maximize communications between members of the organization and create a flexible, more responsive team. This works by flipping the pyramid so employees are adding value to the organization and opening the paths of communication. And a quote from our executive team: servant leadership focuses on the prosperity of the people within the organization. Servant leaders unlock potential in others by placing their needs at a higher priority than their own. And this is what we currently will be adopting in the Sheriff's Office as we move forward. So in 2021, we began to see an increase in calls for service as we come out of the COVID issue. These increases can be seen across the board as we return to a norm in our statistical numbers. There have been many challenges and changes to law enforcement. The Ottawa County Sheriff's Office stands ready and able to maintain its delivery of quality, professional, and ethical law enforcement services. I would like to start part of the report here in the index crimes, which includes the violent crimes of murder, criminal sexual conduct, robbery, and aggravated assault. All of these were up, and property crimes were also up in 2021. In 2021, we investigated one homicide in Ottawa County, and this homicide is currently closed, and the suspect in this case took his own life. In this homicide case, it was a victim to offender relationship and was not an act of, not an act of random crime. Aggravated assaults were up in 2021. These assaults have been trending upward the last several years. Several of these cases have been very violent assaults and very complex investigations for our agency. In the category of non-index crimes, there was an increase also in 2021. Some of these crimes saw increases were sex offenses, assault, vandalism. A very concerning one to us and the community are weapon offenses and drunk driving. As you heard from the prosecutor several weeks ago, the weapon offenses are on an increase at a concerning rate. And we are addressing these as the best we can and as we come across these weapons in cases and investigations. Calls for overall service across the county totaled 69,099 calls. Again, it is trending upward. Obviously, the year of COVID, when that started, our numbers had plummeted like many other law enforcement agencies. Our third highest call volume areas, our three highest call volume areas in the county are Allendale, Georgetown Township, and Holland Township. Allendale Township had the highest increase in calls for service at just over 9%. We continue to work with our partnerships to address service levels and the growing changes in their communities. County arrest. There were a total of 5,823 arrests in Ottawa County. 5,145 of those were adults and 678 were juveniles. In 2021, deputies from the sheriff's office made over 23,534 traffic contacts and issued 17,409 traffic tickets. There were 6,753 crashes that were investigated in our county. 25 of those crashes were fatal crashes with 27 lives lost. And 11 of these fatal crashes involved alcohol and/or drugs. There was a total of 590 arrests for operating while intoxicated. As you know, we gave an award to Deputy Shaler a while back, who is our drug recognition expert. He has been utilized 47 times in 2001. And in the annual report is a very good description of what the DRE program is. This is specialized training. The expense has been covered by the state of Michigan, and also for the call outs that he goes on as a DRE, those are also reimbursed to us currently by the state. In our corrections division, there were 4,062 admits into the county jail. We continue to work with the courts and several of the diversion programs. We offer useful and successful inmate programs such as GED program, substance abuse, Reaching the Forgotten, which is formerly the Forgotten Man Ministries, career development programs, 70x7, and also the Women's Resource Center, with those last two being the newest programs coming in. And we still continue with our in-house SWAT program. That program was eliminated and brought in-house into the jail facility and continues to be a success. Also in the jail, we have implemented a tablet system in the jail, which has created streamlined communications, educational opportunities, and communications for the citizens lodged in the jail with their families. There have been many improvements within the jail facility throughout the year. And we also added the body scanner into the receiving area. And that's used to detect contraband that may be introduced into the facility. The investigations unit, our detective unit, continues to stay busy. The current average of assigned cases to one detective are approximately 30 to 35 at any given time. Our fraud detective has an average of 43 cases at any time. Last year, the detectives worked the one major homicide along with many other complex cases. The cold case team continues to work and follow up on all investigative leads on several of our active cold cases of unidentified persons and a couple of the other outstanding where we do have an identity of the victim. In 2001, the cold case team was able to identify one of our victims through DNA technology. That was a homicide victim from 27 years ago. The cold case has benefited from the latest advancements in DNA technology. We also continue to have detectives assigned, one to the Federal Task Force on Human Trafficking, and the other assigned to the IRS handling fraud and scam investigations. These are multi-jurisdictional task force. In the past 2 years, we have experienced a sharp increase in fraud and scams, resulting in extremely large losses to victims within our county. As you're aware, many of these scams are very hard to backtrack, and many of them end up being tracked back overseas. And again, very hard for us to get prosecution on some of these scam cases. The Sheriff's Office maintains 2 detectives assigned to the Children's Advocacy Center down in Holland. In 2001, these detectives investigated 852 criminal sexual conduct and abuse cases against children. And those children were just from Ottawa County. There were 296 referrals to the Children's Advocacy Center. Again, the numbers here keep increasing. Detectives also handled 808 law enforcement notifications from Child Protective Services, requesting our assistance to look at cases and investigations. WeMet, which is our multi-jurisdictional drug team, remains very busy combating illegal drug activity here in Ottawa County. We have seen an increase in the last year in meth and heroin incidents within the county. Again, I continue to represent the Michigan Sheriffs on the executive board of HIDA under the President's Office of National Drug Control and Policy. And this board oversees the drug teams in the state of Michigan. Our computer forensics detectives handled 243 investigations involving digital media and performed 411 forensic examinations of digital media. That can be anything from a hard drive to a cell phone and any other digital device that can be used. We continue to find that in our criminal investigations that digital media devices are normally involved in some manner, or there's evidence or good information on those devices. The Sheriff's Office continues to see many concerns yet in Ottawa County: domestic violence, crimes against children, assaults and weapon offenses, as I had mentioned earlier, continue to rise. Also a concern are the continued mental health incidents that continue to increase. Our road patrol and correctional staff are dealing with mental health incidents daily. The Sheriff's Office works in collaboration with the Ottawa County Mental Health, community groups, and courts, looking at services, diversion programs, and training related to mental health. In 2001, we began working and collaborating with Ottawa County Mental Health and our law enforcement partners here in Ottawa County. And we began working on the crisis intervention team concept. This team has a deputy assigned with CMH to a caseworker. They began operation in October of 2021. And to date, the sheriff deputy assigned to the CIT team alone has handled about 230 cases for the Sheriff's Office. The CIT has many great success stories. Stories of helping individuals, jail diversion, and placements for people, finding the help, providing the follow-up, and follow-up is the key to a CIT program. As sheriff, I continue to serve on the Governor's Mental Health Diversion Council, where we continue looking at mental health issues around the state. And serving on this committee for over 5 years, I can assure you that this is a nonpartisan issue. This issue affects everybody. It's affecting our society, the criminal justice system, and the correction system. I'm also serving currently on the state committee with MCOLS, who handles the licensing of law enforcement officers in the state of Michigan. And we are starting to roll out our new mental health training for law enforcement. And it's been accepted extremely well across the state. Our emergency management division has seen a busy time in the last 2 years. And I have to really thank Director Lou Hunt and his staff for their dedication and commitment to the communities in Ottawa County. The EMD responded to multiple emergency events in 2001, including flooding, power outages, some of them right here, hazardous material events, search and rescue operations, and they also worked very heavily during the COVID event for supplying supplies throughout the county. Emergency Management Division also conducts training and exercises with businesses and other governmental jurisdictions in Ottawa County. The MD continues to develop and use the Ottawa County Alert System. Our local emergency planning coordinator continues to develop and update numerous response plans throughout the county. The MD has almost 150 dedicated volunteers in various groups. And again, please take this time to review the information about emergency management. It is a key division under the sheriff's office, and they play a key role in the operations of this county. The sheriff's office will continue to provide professional law enforcement services delivered with customer service in mind, fair and impartial policing, and we understand equality and diversity. We will continue to make victims of crime our priority. In fact, that will be our top priority and always has been. We will continue to maintain safe and secure and professional correctional facility and the staffing there and the services there in the correctional facility. We look ahead to the future as the growth of this county continues. We look at and assess our needs now and into the future. As many of you are aware, recruitment and retention is extremely important to continue to provide the services to the citizens of this county. We've had a large number of retirements in the last year and a half. A lot of experience and knowledge has left the building with those retirements. But it is our responsibility to build and train our new staff. I also want to say thank you to this board for allowing the pilot program of the sponsorship program. I introduced to you several deputies a couple months ago that were sponsored to the police academy. And again, I can't say thank you. And I also have put a big thank you out to Marcy and her HR staff. The amount of hiring, interviewing, all the paperwork and everything, we could never do it without the HR team. We know there will be continued change that will take place in the sheriff's office. We know that change is inevitable in any of our professions. As law enforcement professionals, we will continue to look at ourselves and take steps to improve our level of service and advance our profession. We will continue to hire and train the best employees to serve our citizens. Being a law enforcement executive, along with others, chief executives of law enforcement officers, we run a business that are designed to perform a service to the public. That is what we are dedicated ourselves to. We hear about police improvements. There's always room for improvement. I will never argue that. And we will continue to make improvements. We continue to participate in many of the suggested improvements. We continue to report use of force data collection to the FBI. I'm proud to say, and I think I mentioned this last year, all 83 sheriffs in the state of Michigan participate in this program. And Michigan is one of the only states, few states across our nation that has 100% compliance. We continually update and add to our policies and procedures to stay current with laws, best practices. Training is important in so many ways. Many of the suggested improvement items that have been listed out either by the government at the state and federal level, we have already had in place. And I'm extremely proud of that fact. As I mentioned earlier, we will continue to work with the county and our partnerships as we continue to see the growth that is upon us and the demand for law enforcement services as Ottawa County continues to grow. We are currently working with several of our townships to look at increased staffing levels in some of these townships that have seen tremendous growth. Community policing still has proven to be one of the most valuable tools and vital role for our agency in our law enforcement efforts. We collaborate with communities, local leaders, business leaders, school districts, the courts, faith-based organizations, and many others to help identify areas of needs and develop and deploy effective strategies to address those needs. In closing, I want to first and foremost thank the citizens of Ottawa County for their support. I want to thank you, the county board, for your support, and also the county administration and all of our numerous partnerships that we have throughout the county, whether it's just through meetings or through contracts. The support for our employees is evident. That support of the employees of the Sheriff's Office who serve in this noble profession is also important. There's no higher honor than public service. I want to publicly thank all the staff of the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office for their dedication and their professionalism that they display each day. I need to also thank my undersheriff, my chief deputy, who are here today for their day-to-day dedication and support. This is what makes us known as one of the best sheriff's offices. I'll back that up, the best sheriff's office in the state of Michigan. I also need to acknowledge that as you look through that annual report, it's very complex. There's a lot of numbers there. I have to acknowledge Director Scott Brevant for all of his time and work into this complex report. I encourage that you look at the annual report, recognize that it's just a small snapshot of many of our accomplishments in our communities. Again, the men and women of the Sheriff's Office take pride and are dedicated to providing excellent quality and professional law enforcement and correctional services to our citizens and visitors. Again, protecting our quality of life and making Ottawa County a safe and secure environment to work and live and visit. So with that, I can open it up if anybody has any questions.
Commissioner Zales.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, thank you, Steve. I really appreciate your report and, appreciate your department's work both through 2021 and, obviously going forward as well. Just quick question on the corrections, and I know you noted the work on diversion. Average daily population is 237 for last year.
Yes.
Is that kind of be our new normal, or?
It's gone back up. Obviously, we hit a low during COVID. But again, I think, the courts are still catching up.
Okay.
I see that number going up a little bit. That has been kind of steady here lately.
Okay.
Yes, the courts are doing as much diversion work as they can. I think we've heard that from the courts and the prosecutors. And again, I do support those diversion programs, especially when it comes to the mental health and other issues. The courts are looking at, my goal is that if somebody does come to our jail facility, that they never return. That doesn't bother me one bit.
Right.
We want them to leave our jail facility being better prepared to go into the community. And again, I think with that has also helped us keep down the jail population. So the diversion programs do work. There's great success stories that come out of those.
When you say it's go up, do you think it's going to go back to the mid 300s or low 300s, or going to stay, I mean, I know you can't see, for how the future or anything.
I wish I had a crystal ball.
Yeah, I know.
Mr. Zalstra.
Sure.
Again, I don't like saying this, but with some of the types of crime that we're seeing in our county, and when we do effect arrest, obviously some of those people are housed within our facility after their court proceedings, or they're moved on to the state correctional system. I would hope that I could easily see it maybe hitting the 300 mark or just over. But again, it hasn't, after this COVID period, it hasn't shot up drastically.
Okay.
But again, I know the courts have a large backlog also.
Right. Well, I appreciate your work on that and the court's work obviously as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Danberg.
Steve, and maybe I missed it here in the report. I don't see it listed. Maybe you got it labeled domestic abuse.
Yes.
It's not on here, or did I miss it?
It's in the annual report.
Okay.
Some of it, the state system for classification of incidents, sometimes aggravated assault or assault could be from a domestic situation. One of the things that we are seeing in domestics, where more of them are getting classified as the higher assaults, is strangulation. And we've talked to people that are experts in the field. We've talked with Resilience in Holland that helps women from domestic violence and men. We're concerned. We've seen quite a spike in the strangulation during domestic situations. So again, some of them are also in there listed as family trouble. Some of them could be just disorderly. But again, if there's any type of assault at a domestic situation, it's going to be classified in our coding as an assault or aggravated assault.
Okay, thank you.
Any other further questions for our sheriff?
Good.
Nice report.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Next is our Ottawa County Clerk Register of Deeds Annual Report. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and Board of Commissioners. Thank you for having me. I'm always nervous following the sheriff. The only thing worse would be to be followed by a sheriff, which has happened a few times on 31, but yeah, that's right, or a stop sign in Zealand. So appreciate our partnership with Sheriff Kemker and with Joe Bush as well. So I'm standing between a guy with guns and a guy that's going to talk about flooding, and I'm just going to try to keep you all awake during our annual report. I hope that'll be all right. Appreciate you giving us the opportunity to showcase our team, and I think that's what this is about for me. You can definitely read this letter on your own at a beach somewhere if you would like some light reading, but I think that the gist of this letter and this report from us is a thank you. Commissioner DeYoung is always saying, and has for years, take the time to thank people. And I think that is so critical and so important. I could not do what I do without the incredible work of our team, and our team. Several of the key members of our team are here today. Of course, Rachel and Madison, and then Renee Kuiper, Chief Deputy. Katie Sims is our elections coordinator. Just very grateful for them. Our mission is helping people and encouraging their trust in government. And I think it is so critically important as we're entering, the time that we're in right now, that we have public trust, and trust is earned. And we know that. And our vision and values reflect our desire to continue building that trust. And it really is a reflection of our team. The values, we asked ourselves a question, how does our team behave? And that is, we provide excellent customer service. We are humble. We value people. We're authentic. We are eager to learn, seek input from others, and we are accountable. And all those things are things that we strive for and stress with our team every day, but definitely very grateful for the group of people that I get to work with. Here, the organization chart, not a whole lot has changed here, other than I just wanted to highlight the fact that we did have an election assistant position approved in the budget that began in fiscal year 2021, and that was a huge benefit for our office. We were able to hired on Simone Johnson, who was our elections intern, into that election assistant role, and she has been instrumental. That position in general has been instrumental in helping us deal with the continued challenges and pressures of election administration, which certainly are one of the most important things that our office does. Just talk a little bit about a couple of major goals that we did accomplish in 2021. Fingerprinting and the concealed pistol license process, out of a number of conversations with the sheriff's office, really beginning in 2020 during the COVID period. We realized that it would probably be an assistance to the sheriff's office as well as to us and customers for our team to be able to begin collecting fingerprints. And so we did that beginning in 2021. And that's been a great process for customer service. It's kind of a one-stop shop for anyone who applies for a concealed pistol license from our office. And it has also driven some additional revenue to the general fund through the fingerprint charge that we're mandated to charge. Circuit Court Records Archive Project, that's a big one. Basically relocating all of our court records from the beginning of time, or at least the beginning of the county, to current, in order to basically save space. We kind of did a reorganizational project along with that. Removed a lot of records, thousands of records to the state archives. So it's going to save money. It's a more secure storage facility, and our team was instrumental in doing that. We did all of that process in-house with our own team. Electronic document management and return of documents recorded in the Register of Deeds. This is an amazing thing. So documents that are sent to us by mail have been for years returned by mail to the customer after it's been recorded. We began doing that electronically in 2021 and saved almost $11,000 in postage just last year. It's quite a process because the documents are large files, so it's not something we can just email. But that program has really saved a lot of taxpayer money and also more convenient for customers as well. Honor Rewards Virtual Expo that we held in 2021. We highlighted a lot of businesses, area businesses that support our veterans. Also had a veteran roundtable discussion that was attended by a lot of folks and is actually still online if you want to check that out at miottawa.org/honor rewards. So just a couple of the major things that we've done. And I'll kind of go through a few of the stats here, and to save time, I know John has a lengthy administrator's report afterwards, so I did want to kind of move through what we had, but we had 2,111 babies born in Ottawa County. In our Vital Records division, issued 5,400 certified copies of birth records. These are the top baby names in Ottawa County. This is always a fan favorite for some of our folks who pay attention to the annual report. The top girl name was Isla, not something that I've heard in a while. But there you have the top baby names for us. We also had 2,111 deaths in Ottawa County. It's the first time I've seen that since putting together these numbers. So we broke even and it was a good year for us. That was a joke.
Okay.
DBAs, we pretty much steady with our DBAs at just around 800 DBAs and around 500 notaries as well. Any notary public in the county has to file with our office. They take an oath with us and obviously file their notary bond, as well as any business registered within the county that is not an incorporation with the state. Our CPL process, a little over 4,800 CPLs. The trend line is a little hard to see the color variation here, but the lower line beginning in July there are the new CPLs. The upper line are the renewals. So for most of the year, our renewals are outpacing new CPLs, although we did a number of new ones. So 2,286 brand new CPLs issued in 2021. And then about 2,500 renewals, and almost entirely the renewal process can happen online, which is definitely a convenience for our customers as well. Honor Rewards program, this is our veteran and business partnership program, continue to add both veterans and businesses. We have over 300 businesses in Ottawa County now signed up to give some sort of a discount to our veteran community. And that's just a really fun project that our staff has continued to work on. And we do offer those free ID cards for any veteran in Ottawa County. We talked a little bit more about the Honor Rewards Veteran Expo as well. Definitely appreciate the work of our team putting together. We have just some great organizations in Ottawa County. One of the Folds of Honor is one that I know a lot of you guys are familiar with out at the Grand Haven Golf Course, obviously is a major partner with the Folds of Honor. And we did a really neat video that's also on our website, just kind of highlighting them and some of the work that they do for the children of veterans and folks who were wounded and killed in battle. Trends over time, I think not a whole lot here to point out other than we're remaining fairly steady on most of these trends. I think our CPL numbers, business registration numbers, as you can see, have been down over the past couple of years, but that is a cyclical program. So we have a 5-year renewal process on business registrations. CPLs continue also on a kind of a cyclical process. So some years we see more and some less, but that's based also on a 4-year renewal process. Register of Deeds Division, this is kind of the breakdown of the funds receipted by the Register of Deeds office. And 2021 was a significant year for Register of Deeds in general. A lot of documents recorded. We'll just get to that slide quickly. We had 63,000 documents, and that's the highest since really we've seen since the kind of the 2008 era. A lot of movement in property and land transactions, and that resulted in also a significant amount of revenue. Just our free online search alone captured about $40,000 in revenue to the general fund as well, and that was a pretty big increase from the past couple of years. About 11% over 2020, as you can see there too. Passports, another function of our office that we provide service to the community, not a mandatory service, but definitely something that's been helpful for folks that can make an appointment here at our Fillmore office, and we do photos as well as serve as a passport agency. So 706 passports processed last year. Already 1,400 fingerprints taken just with the CPLs alone. So that's been a very, and that was from March to December. So that program initiated in March and has been, again, a great customer service offering. 11 approved plats. I know Chairman Fensky and former Chairman Bergman have all of our former chairs, I guess, get to see this plat board experience. And we've been very busy. Almost every meeting we are approving or reviewing a plat. That's kind of a breakdown there as to where those plats are located, but definitely a busy season of building and development continuing in the county. That's our postage savings there from the Madison is so good, by the way, at moving that little video camera. And also props to Madison for the annual report itself. I could not make it look this good. She gets the credit for that. Trends in the Register of Deeds over time. And again, you see just in the funds receipted, 21 million receipted last year, as opposed to significantly lower in the previous couple of years. We are incidentally starting to see that trend tick downward a little bit in terms of the number of documents. I think the interest rate increases have definitely affected the volume of documents in our office. However, we're seeing the transfer tax remain relatively the same. And so the higher property costs are not affecting the budget as much. Our circuit court records team receipted in 2.7 million last year. And again, these are a little bit lower, about 10% lower than the previous couple of years, mainly because of hearings not being held as regularly by the collection clerks. And lower overall court cases, and that we're starting to see that trend tick upward this year. But in 2021, we're still kind of coming out of that COVID period. 115,000 total documents filed in circuit court records, and this is kind of the breakdown. That team is a very hardworking team, and we're really grateful for all of the work they do in service to our courts and to our judges. Jury trials, another very busy, it was a busy year for jury trials, particularly because of the COVID shutdown and the lack of jury trials that we held in 2020. And so we called in over 1,200 jurors to serve, and that's a lot of communication. We're mailing out summons to jurors at the rate of about 400 in a 2-week period all through the year. So dealing with a lot of juror phone calls and questions, and making sure that they can get where they need to go for those trials. And again, 60% increase over 2020. So our jury clerks on the clerk side and the CCR side had a very busy year as well. We had 98 adoptions, so that's an encouraging number for sure. And then, of course, Adoption Day, our staff plays a big role in the adoption process as we clerk the probate court and the family court, family division of the circuit court. I'm very thankful for that team over there as well. A little bit of numbers on the Grand Rapids Archives. Again, this was all a completely staff-led process. Over 4,500 boxes transferred to the Grand Rapids Archives. 182 boxes, and that actually represents thousands of individual documents sent to the state archives, and that saves storage costs for us as well. So definitely kudos to that team working on that project. Again, in that trend line, you can definitely see the decrease from previous years in terms of funding, in terms of the receipting, I should say. And as well as documents filed, we're down over where we were a couple of years ago. But that trend does fluctuate as well. Our elections division, obviously a smaller year in terms of the number of elections and the number of voters. We had a little over 42,000 ballots cast though in 2021. And this is always an interesting statistic to me as well. This is the rate of absentee voting that occurred in each election. So you can see the absentee voting numbers are really sticking from that 2020 trend that we saw. Obviously, absentee voting has increased due to the constitutional amendment that changed the rules around who can apply for an absentee ballot. We just had a May election, obviously on last week, Tuesday. We had about a 73% absentee turnout in that election. So what we're seeing in the smaller elections is a higher turnout, not by a whole lot, but it is a higher turnout. And it's certainly a much higher absentee turnout. And so I think some of that relates to the fact that people are participating by mail and turning out in higher numbers. Same day voter registration, not a whole lot of same day registration that happened in 21. In 2020, we had significant numbers, over 1,000 people in Ottawa County registered or changed their address to make that accurate on election day in the November presidential election. One of the pilot projects that we worked on a little bit and that we're continuing to work on in this calendar year as well, but we partnered with the Sheriff's Department for a pilot of the return of our election results physically. So just increasing the security and the chain of custody requirements around the physical return of election materials to our office. Very important to get that right. And very grateful for the Sheriff's Office and their team for their work on that with us as well. We learned quite a bit about how they handle chain of custody, and certainly going to take that back to our collaborations and partnerships around the state in the election space also. We have a team that knows how to do social media, and they are cooler than me, and I appreciate them. And they continue to do things that are outside the box, things that are reaching a lot of people on social media. This is just one example of that. Our May the 4th election last year. Apparently May the 4th has some kind of Star Wars reference. I don't know. That was also a joke. Yeah. We also won a significant award in 2021, and I'm really proud of the team for this. This is a U.S. Election Assistance Commission, a clearinghouse award for outstanding innovation in cybersecurity and technology with elections. And this is really based on our efforts in the 2020 cycle, particularly surrounding the November election, to educate our voters about election security. Something that we're very passionate about, something that we focused on, but that had over 1 million impressions on social media alone, including radio and billboard. And that was nationally recognized in April of last year in 21 by the EAC. So kudos to Katie and Simone and our elections team for that as well. Consistently referring folks to this website, please check it out yourselves, or if you have any folks who are have questions for you about election security and about the process, myottawa.org, securing the vote. And we've really taken a lot of the questions that we commonly get and have directed folks to this website where we're giving explanations of how this process works. And I think it's really important to continue having those conversations as well. Something to note here, I think that's interesting, is the registered voters and the trends over time. You see an actual dip from a high of where we were in 2020. And then in 2021, we have a little over 5,000, basically 4,000, sorry, fewer registered voters. One of the main reasons for that is the county-wide mailing that was conducted, where we essentially mailed absentee voter applications. So that mailing under the federal law allowed us to receive information, valuable information from the post office, verifiable information that individuals have moved. We were able to place those voters on the cancellation countdown, which is a federal requirement that we have to notice those voters, verify that they've moved. But the Secretary of State's office actually removed 177,000 total voters from the voter rolls in early 2021 because of those efforts. And so basically we're looking at cleaner voter rolls because of some of that work. Absentee turnout, again, we're seeing higher numbers, and I think that trend will continue. My guess would be in a larger scale election, we'll certainly see the percentage of absentee participation dip a little bit, but continue to be in that 50 to 60% range. A couple of goals we have for 2022, campaign finance online. We've talked to you guys a little bit about this already. Our campaign finance online project is going to be up and running hopefully by July, and we're excited about that. It just adds more transparency to the process. People can see easily searchable on the internet those records. We're also working on a kiosk project for our vital records and registered deeds services, with the ultimate goal basically being able to be in libraries and other public places, allowing people to get access to our services closer to where they're at. Case management system, we've been working on this for a number of years, and really hoping to kind of tip over the edge this year in having a new case management system for the circuit court. That's definitely an important project for our team. And the other thing, and I think the sheriff mentioned this toward the end of his remarks as well, developing our team. We've had significant amounts of turnover, like a lot of other folks have had over the past several months coming out of that COVID period. And I think for us, it is so important to invest in the team that we have, to give them the training opportunities, both personally and professionally, that they need. And again, that is a focus of our management and our leadership team as we move into the 2022 and 23 cycle as well. And I think that is all I have for you. If you have any questions for me.
Commissioner Zauser?
Yeah, I'm sorry, you can go through, thanks for the presentation, by the way, Justin, appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's great looking presentation. If you go back the City of Holland pilot program. So
Sure.
The idea is that going forward, there will be no electronic release of data. It's gonna be all physical.
Correct. Yeah. So for years, for over a couple of decades, actually, we've had unofficial results transmitted electronically to the county offices. And that's basically how we release our election results to the media and voters on election night. And the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, which I serve on the board of the EAC, their standards board, has not certified electronic transmissions going forward. So what that means is we're currently operating on a system that has been certified, but our new upgrade, which essentially will be happening in late 22 and early 23, will basically not allow that process to occur. And so overall, I think based on public perception, that's probably a good thing. You know, I can certainly stand here and tell you that we believe that it's a very secure process. It's a encrypted transmission that occurs over about a 4-second window based on 140 different precinct locations pinging at different times. And it also serves as an electronic backup of unofficial results.
Sure.
But I think that in the interest of ensuring the highest quality security process for our election results, we need to look at better ways of doing that. And one of the things that, grateful for the sheriff's team on is, the understanding of chain of custody, which I think Michigan elections has something to learn from law enforcement in terms of how chain of custody goes. So that was a part of that pilot as we prepare to kind of move off of that process.
So, but in practice, then I'm just kind of thinking through my own work on elections, is that you probably won't have anything until 11 o'clock at night. Then if you're talking about all the jurisdictions in Ottawa County,
Yeah.
unofficial or official.
No, that's a great point. And I think it's something we need to educate folks on because people are used to getting, we have a great team that, including IT, just one of our county partners is IT and they're instrumental in helping us with website results.
Okay.
And we've got results on the web at, 8:05, 8:15, 8:20.
So people just have to get away from that and they'll just have to be
Yeah.
getting
And
used to having an 11 o'clock release. If you guys are,
yeah.
busting your butts, it's 11 o'clock is probably optimistic, right?
Well, yeah. And I think
With all
we'll
the-
certainly
with all the
receive
jurisdictions and in
results
general.
prior to then. But in terms of like a fully reporting process, we're definitely looking at a later time.
But so then your plan is to not do any preliminary releases then until you get everything in from the sheriff's office?
No, I think and again, the sheriff's office was a pilot project and,
Okay.
we're still in discussion as to how exactly this process will look, including discussions with the Secretary of State's office, which of course would oversee any statewide process as well. But yeah, we would still continue to report results as we receive them, which we always have done.
But you wouldn't be receiving them electronically, is what I'm saying.
Correct.
It'd still be a
It
manual.
would be a delayed manual.
Right, so it's
data.
still that probably 11 o'clock. I don't know what that pilot program came up with, what time did you come up with the pilot? Program?
Yeah, I would say probably 9:30. Our team had results
Okay.
from that pilot project.
But
So,
then add in all the other 20 jurisdictions on,
right.
2022. Are you
Yeah.
concerned that if you're not posting anything until 11, that folks will have assumptions about that delay?
Yep, that's definitely, we always go back to trust and how, how things look, right? And sometimes when results don't appear in a timely manner, folks can assume certain things. I don't believe that's going to be a concern for us. I mean, we're working hard to develop a process where we can get information quickly. But it is going to take some time to flesh that out. I think it's going to take education too,
Sure. Because like
Good question.
jurisdictions like Grand Haven and Holland, I mean, just the distance alone is gonna add another half an hour to the results.
So related to that too is, so Holland and Grand Haven, we have precincts. We have 4 precincts in Grand Haven. So
Mhm.
in order to get numbers from Grand Haven, you're gonna get all 4 precincts before you report. Or are you gonna report as soon as you get 1 precinct?
So our process, and typically this is followed around the state, this is not uncommon at all, but our process has always been to report precincts as we receive them. So for an example, the precincts in Grand Haven are probably going to finish up before the absentee counting board might, because that's a more labor intensive
sure.
process.
Yeah.
So we may report precinct result information prior to having the full numbers for absentees. And I don't anticipate that process changing. We just have to make sure that we're clearly communicating what's reporting, which IT does a great job of as well on the
So
website.
if you have the absentee coming in afterwards, it could really skew. the result.
Absolutely.
Well, that did happen in the last election, but
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
my question is, when
Yeah.
there's no change to absentee counting law, right? We still had the same procedures as we've had for the last.
Correct. Yeah. Under current law, we have
So
to
that is not gonna
begin,
be any quicker either, right?
right. We have to begin processing absentee ballots at 7 a.m. on election day. And that's one of the things that we've been working hard on. In fact, I think the Republican leadership in the legislature, as well as the governor, recognize that there is a need to do some form of secure processing prior to 7 a.m. on election day. That's what every state that has these kinds of absentee laws
But as of
does.
Yet, there's nothing been.
Not yet. We're hopeful for this cycle, but as of right now, there isn't.
People should just go to bed at 9 o'clock, is what you're saying. Not.
I mean, that's when I go to bed, but not on election
There you
night.
go.
Don't worry.
May as well go to bed at 9 o'clock, and get up at midnight, right?
Right.
To see the results.
Any other questions for Justin?
Hey,
gentlemen?
Justin, I had questions in the same area as well.
Hard, no?
In your pilot program, I noticed on your second step that it reads during this pilot program, the city of Holland clerk and one member of the opposite political party from the receiving board drove to each precinct.
Mhm.
Can you explain that part? Why just one? I mean,
Well,
I mean,
there is.
which is the opposing party.
Well, there are a lot of bipartisan processes within election law. I mean, multiple stages of the process throughout election day and certification are all dealt with on a bipartisan level. So one of those ways is that people bringing results in to the clerk's office from a precinct location had to be represented by a bipartisan representation coming in to the precinct with the ballots or with the voting materials. And so that was one of the ways that we carried that forward on this pilot project basis, saying, well, there is vote data here on this electronic flash drive. It was sealed and properly signed off on, but it was also delivered by members of opposite party, political party. And it happened to be the clerk.
Right, it'd be.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because I read it as one party would be held.
Oh, gotcha. Nope, it's bipartisan for
Okay,
sure.
good. I wanted to, thank you, Justin, as well. I know that you've been out on several media outlets out there for defending the prime principle of what this country was based on, and that is that every vote counts and everyone has the right to vote. And I know that you and your staff and clerks from the county have been out there assuring people that every vote is being counted. So I appreciate all the work that you've done for Ottawa County as well as throughout the state.
Thanks, Commissioner. Appreciate that.
Any further questions? Nice job. Real
Thank
thorough.
you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you much. Next is our Ottawa County Water Resources Annual Report. Joe Bush.
Well, now that Karen left, now I can really talk. I'm just kidding. I'm talking about money. Well, thanks again, Board Chair, Mr. Fenske, and the rest of the board for your support and letting me get up here and talk about the annual report. There I am. All right. So again, I appreciate everybody on this board, and I think I communicate with quite a few of you on different drain issues throughout the year at some point, whether it's too dry, too wet, too much rain, not enough rain, groundwater issues, or even flooding. I'll go back and talk a little bit about the partnership between Justin's office. We do a lot with his departments, even Sheriff Kemker and the emergency management. We work with a lot with Lou Hunt, especially last year when we had a lot of flooding. We coordinated, we communicated. His sheriff's team was out there patrolling different flooding situations. My contractors were out at the same time trying to coordinate. So I appreciate the two elected officials before me. And I think a lot of partnerships happen and behind the scenes that nobody knows about. But I want to say thanks to Mr. Roebuck and Sheriff Kemker for their work and what they do for Ottawa County and my own department. We'll go ahead and start off. We'll talk about the 21 challenges. There was quite a few, maybe not as many as some other areas, but for a small department as our own, we definitely have a lot of challenges. When you have the growth of the county, right? It's a repeated word, right? Growth, growth, growth. We're definitely seeing it. I'll go back and talk about the plat board. Several of you sit on that. You see all the plats that have been getting signed. I'm about 2 years prior to a plat being signed. I'm 2 years ahead of that, working with the developers and the townships and planning commissions to get it to the point where this county board or the plat board signs it or the road commission. So I'll talk about growth. That was a challenge in 21. It's going to be a challenge in 22 as well. We'll talk about commercial, residential, municipal. We talk about affordable housing. We're working with many partners on some new apartments, housing, mixed use. I know I see Commissioner Zoustra quite a few times on the Lakeshore Home Builders Association, and we talk about those potential projects and potential roadblocks. So I'm always happy to be a part of that team at the Home Builders Association. Talk about my department. How do we help people get where they need to go? Again, customer service and how can I help? The other issue was the high volume of petitions. IRs or inspection reports and the cleanout request. When you have no different than the sheriff's department on complaints about something in a certain township where they might be adding patrols. We get the same issues about water and flooding and groundwater issues and the developments that when you have more development, you got more runoff, you got to figure out where you're going to put the water. You want to make sure you got good water quality and water quantity is another issue that's in Ottawa County and certain townships. So those are all part of the challenges that we've been working with and moving forward with Paul Sachs. He's in here. Or he was in here. So he's another one of those that we partner with and trying to figure out the water quantity. The other one is contractor scheduling, staffing. And I think a lot of you heard about the material shortages, and then you got the price hikes. It started in 21, we're seeing it in 22. Those all contribute to all of our projects in every area of our department. Pretty much this whole thing has been a challenge. The other one that's probably been most critical is COVID-19 coming out of that. And what happened to people, what happened to workers, what happened to people who weren't really social. I think it changed the atmosphere coming out of that a little bit to getting used to people again. So yeah, that's been another one of those challenges that we've been working through. We'll talk about one of our departments that is, as you see the numbers, is our active soil erosion permits. We take this very seriously. In 21, we had 828 new permits. And you'll see the average of what it is as active permits. But again, it's a high number of complex permits, subdivisions, commercial, industrial. Those permits are, again, on the rise this year. But in 21, you see a little downtick, but a lot of those might have been expiring. Sometimes when you see our soil erosion permits, they go beyond a year. So it's really not a true, December to December. It could be a year and a half or a little longer than that, depending on when they expire. The other one that I really want to talk about is the Ms4 permitting, which is kind of a new hot topic around right now. It's an EGLE mandate. It's an unfunded mandate from the state. EGLE is the old DEQ, and the permit is held by you folks at Ottawa County. There was a resolution back in 2001 that said that the county would put it under my jurisdiction and my department, so we're dealing with it. But just a heads up, it's been one of our challenges in 21 and then in 22. What that creates is 23 or 6,300. And these are just on the low end. We probably have more than that of 73 or 6,375 catch basin cleanouts or inspections and cleanouts. We don't know yet. A lot of these catch basins might not have been cleaned out in 20, 30 years, but just FYI, we have to do that. My staff does. We have 400 plus outfalls that we have to inspect. Currently, we have 200 plus detention and retention ponds. We've been slowly kind of trying to get some of those cleaned out in the last year, 2 years. But 200s on the small end, I think we're closer to 300 to 400 that are under my jurisdiction that we have to clean out. And this is a 3-year inspection reporting cycle. And this is all an unfunded mandate. So if I don't do it, right now we're under an audit for the Ms4 permit from the last permit cycle. So EGLE DEQ is currently under in our department doing an audit. So hopefully, I think it's going to be a good one. We try to do the best we can, but this is moving forward. This is even more than what we did the last permit cycle. And again, it's about sustained growth in the urbanized areas. So when you look at 63, that's just then, let me grab a map for you. It's where the green is. So it isn't countywide. It's where the green is for the urbanized area, and that's the growth. The urbanized area is defined as population. So it depends on the population. So again, it's the Holland Township, Allendale Township, Georgetown Township. Those are the areas, especially Jamestown. It's growing like crazy out there. Those are the areas that we're seeing this Ms4 permitting and this mandate kind of interact with. So just a heads up, that's something we've been working on, and we don't have the staff to really take it over and do it like they want us to, but we're going to try to figure it out. The other one is drain inspections. Currently, we have one drain inspector full-time and myself, but he's in the field every day looking at drains. When you look at those numbers of the inspection reports completed, and again, we had a little downtick when 19 and 20, we had the high groundwater, we had flooding worse than we had 21. So those numbers did go down, but that doesn't mean that the size of the project went down because the next slide will tell you this is maintenance expenses in the thousands. So we put a chart together. And again, the high since 2019 and then IRs completed were 10. This is on a weekly task. And then bids, we put out 6 different bids on projects weekly. And then the maintenance expenses are from 15 to 20,000 because of the cost. It costs more to do business nowadays. And to clean drains, it costs more. So the numbers might go down inspection wise, but the number of complaints and the size of the cleanouts is more. And then the other big one is development reviews. This is on a 15-year average, which is 67. But if you look at 18, 17, 18, we're at all-time high, 117. And then of course, 19, it dropped, but it was that drop. These kind of go in a 2-year cycle too, because you don't review a development in 1 year. It's usually about a 2-year cycle by the time you work with the contractors, or not contractors, the engineers and the developer to the time of your actually moving dirt. Takes about 1.5 to 2 years. There's a lot of work in between with my department and the townships to get things moving. But that number really does, forecasting for 22. I think we're going to be higher than potentially what 17 was, what we're looking at now. So those development reviews, again, share what the plat boards, what, the things that Doug hears, our Commissioner Zylstra hears on the Lakeshore Home Builders Association. Ottawa County is definitely growing, and every time you hear a report, there's a need because of growth. So that kind of says it all. The other thing we did in 21 was update our development standards, which is a requirement through the state. So we did that. And then the reason we did those, number one, it's a requirement. And the other one is to align better with other municipalities. So we teamed up years ago with Allegan, Kent, City of Holland, and Muskegon. We all did them. Our standards are all similar. They all look alike. There's a few changes depending on, because City of Holland obviously has more redevelopment than new development. But most of them, we try to be consistent with our neighboring counties to make sure that when developers come in here, we're not way out in left field, making it impossible to develop, but yet have a standard that's kind of in, the West Michigan standard. So we're all on this kind of the same page. There's no favorites being played. We're giving everybody an equal opportunity to be able to develop. The other one is improved water quality feature measures. We had to do that. I think it was very critical to when you have development and more runoff, we want to make sure water quality is there and the improved detention retention. And then we use an Elgro spreadsheet, which I won't get into the weeds of that, but it's about how the numbers are. It's all formulas used to how much water stays on your property before you put it into a drain. The other one I just want to highlight is some of our primary vendors. These are just a list of people that we use almost on a weekly basis. Somewhere they're working more than others, but because they all don't get all low bids, but we do. These are our primary bidders that bid on just about every one of our projects somewhere in the county. So these are just a highlight of the ones that have been working with us. There's probably 3 or 4 of them on here that's been working for Ottawa County for 25, 30 years, just on drain work. So 2021 in review, day of reviews, which is people can come in, check out their assessments, or they can call in. We had 17 of those. Those are the ones that have special assessments to the property owners. If the township picks it up at large out of their budget, we don't really hold a day of review because the township's picking that up. Board of determinations, those are public hearings. I know some of you kind of know what those are, but those are meetings that we have to hold when there's a petition. We had 10 of those orphan drain adoptions. Those are kind of in those petitions, and we had 8 of those. Well, petitions, there's 21. 8 of those were orphan drains. The other ones were because of flooding issues. Encroachment agreements, we do a lot more of those now than we used to. We have 39. The drains assessed, that's a pretty big number. We had 199 drains. People who forget how many drains I have to look over and manage is over 1,000. So 199 is quite a few, a little over 10%, but definitely it's a lot of work to assess a drain on a small staff that we have, but basically 200 drains in 21 is a lot. Positions filled, we had a couple people leave and went to our people who work for us, a couple of our engineering firms, but we had, thanks to you guys, my part-time secretary got moved to full-time, and the lady that was working there had to leave because she couldn't do full-time. So, and we ended up hiring a new our drain clerk. So we do have 2 new people, or 1.5, basically. And then if you need detailed drain financials, I know Karen left, but I could spend hours talking about drain financials. But if you have any questions or want to know about them, be sure to come and see me if you want to see them. 22 projections. Again, we're getting the increase in orphan drains. And orphan drain is something that that the county, the township, the road commission, they don't own it. They don't have any responsibility of cleaning it or fixing it or maintaining it. What to say, the city of Hudsonville has came to me and said, hey, any drain that we have in the city of Hudsonville, we want to do a petition and have it taken under your jurisdiction and become a county drain. So Hudsonville is a big one. And they probably have about 25 to 30 they want to do. Georgetown has about 300. That's a big, long process, but that won't happen anytime soon as far as, because we're gonna do about 5 a year per township, just because of the business of our office. But we can take some of those. Holland is another one that we've been doing quite a few of those. The increase in drain maintenance and the record high number of soil erosion permits and development reviews. Just a good example, this picture says 1,000,000 words. This is kind of drain maintenance in the city of Zeeland up in the upper end of the Brower drain. And you can, you'll probably see this in your newsletter that's going to be going out. I love this picture because it's a good example. We try to do this. We get the drains hopefully every 10, 15 years because you got so many of them. But there's a before picture, exact same location, and there we just did that clean out to the right, and what a difference it makes, right? People didn't even know there was a drain there in their backyard, and it is. So it's critical to Ottawa County that we keep maintenance like this. And here comes another picture that people are like, why do you know there's a drain back there? Well, there is, and we try to keep water flowing. But we also like to retain it in detention ponds because we try to get infiltration because it won't be long. There's probably going to be people irrigating yards, even though we've had all the rain, and they want to know where the water went. So like to keep it back somewhat if you can, but we don't like flooding either. It's not good. Here's another drain. This is a roadside ditch, but it is a county drain. And it wasn't flowing. Obviously, you can tell the driveway culverts were plugged, and there's some pump leads went out to the ditch, and we cleaned it out. So that's working pretty well now. So those are just some good examples. Here's some of soil erosion. I said, hey, take a picture of a development site. I believe this one on the left is Request Foods, the new one off of Ransom over there, the big one. But the one on the left says commercial is a kind of don't do. There's no silt sack in the catch basin. And people always wonder what those black sacks are in why it's in the catch basin. It's plugging up. The water can't get down it. Well, they're there for a reason. And they're supposed to be cleaned out all the time by the contractor or the developer. But that one here doesn't have one at all. So I wanted a picture of that going, this is what they should not be doing, but there's a reason why they're there. The other one, you see the silt fence and the straw matting, because again, water quality, we try to keep the dirt out of the drain for all developments. And that's the same way with the waterfront. We try to keep that separated with silt fence. So, and just want to kind of reach out to these fine organizations. We partner with these on, if not sometimes weekly, it's for sure monthly. Farm Bureau, the MAC, the Home Builders Association, like I mentioned earlier, NRCS, Conservation District, Parks, and all the other county departments, IT, GIS, upstairs in the financial department. I mean, HR with Marcy. We have a wonderful group of departments here. Every one of them has been very helpful to us when we need them. MDOT is a big one that we partner with. We're doing some big projects right now with the highway being closed and new drainage between Zeeland, Hudsonville, and 196. The Road Commission, we partner with them on daily projects. It seems like all 17 townships in the 6 cities in the village. We work with quite a few. Every week we have a project with them. And then we also work with our state reps and our senator, our state senate, Senator Victory, and then our congressman. We always looking at opportunities for different legislation. So we're always working with those folks. MDARD, of course, High Point Bank, and then Outdoor Discovery. We do a lot of projects with Outdoor. They partner a lot. So, and with that, I'm happy to entertain any questions that anybody has for me. I try to be short, quick, and brief. So,
Joe, quick question for you.
Yep.
On the MS4, you said that you're undergoing an audit right now. What happens if you don't pass the audit?
that's a great
I
question.
mean, if it's.
We would have to
it's
fix
not
what's.
funded mandate, but
we would have to fix whatever their audit would come back and say we did wrong. Otherwise, they give you violations and citations until you make it right. So far, so good, but yeah, it's an unfunded mandate. They said you have to do this. If you don't follow their guidelines, then they'll make sure that we do it one way or another. So far, so good.
So you can't just go to Eagle and go do it yourself.
No, that wouldn't be the good idea either. So.
Mr. Terpstra.
How often is that audit then that they're coming in and checking?
This is the first time since 2010, or 2012, sorry. So it's supposed to be like every 5-7 years, but Eagle or DEQ is so understaffed, they're not getting through their cycles. But now with the new permitting cycle, they're hoping to do that more frequently, like every 5 years, maybe every 7 at the most, but 5.
Commissioner Hobler.
Thank you. A little bit of a technical question. When you approve a new plan for new site plan for a whole bunch of homes,
Yep.
and the engineer comes in and approves the flow of water, how it's gonna go, and then they dig a hole for a basement, where does the dirt go? It goes outside of the hole, which changes the whole flow of the water.
Correct.
That shouldn't be.
So that usually goes to the township because there's block grading plans, and then we only approve the basement elevations. So the permits, the building permits are supposed to go through that, and the building inspector, whether it's PCI or the township, goes out and inspects to make sure that the block grading plan for drainage is not, it should be what it is. And then at the end of a project, there should be an engineer certificate for every subdivision that the engineer went out and certified that the drainage routes and everything is built as the as-built, as it should be.
Because it's not.
That's probably true. Because landscapers will come in and change it as soon as it gets the
That's
approval.
also the case, but they're dealing with all this dirt that came out of the hole. And they put it outside, maybe in the left, maybe in the right, maybe in the back. The problem is if the land is a little rolling, the person downhill slightly gets all the water.
That's 100% correct.
And that happens on every single plot I've seen.
Oh, yeah, it does happen a lot. And I tell PCI and the township, I'm not trying to point fingers and put it on them, but it's, hey, your guys as inspectors, you pay for that. Make sure they catch the drainage because nobody cares about it until the house is built and the irrigation is in and people water and their grass in their backyard is squishy, or they get the first big rain event and then they flood. Then it's a problem.
Thanks.
But no, great question.
Anyone else? No? Thanks, Joe.
Yep, thank you.
Next is our Circuit Court Probation and Parole Annual Report. Heath White. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Joe kept his nice and short. I'll try to outdo him on that for you. So first of all, I just want to thank everyone for working with us. I want to thank the Board of Commissioners, the administrator, everyone. We have great partnerships here in Ottawa County with local law enforcement, particularly with the Sheriff's Department. We appreciate everyone's our collaborations we have. So being that, I'm going to get into my report. The Department of Corrections' main mission is public safety, and we hope to achieve that by ensuring offender success, making the life of crime more attractive by hopefully directing our efforts and their risks and needs. We currently supervise 500 probationers or parolees in Ottawa County. Approximately those are 400 on probation, circuit court probation. 140 currently are on parole. We use various methods of supervision for our offenders. Currently we use electronic monitoring, tether, and GPS. Particularly our GPS program tethers are for sex offenders who are mandated by law. Parolees who come out with a CSC first are required to be on GPS. We are currently supervising about 35 in Ottawa County on GPS. We utilize programs in the around the area like KPEP, Alternative Directions in Grand Rapids. We also use various substance abuse agencies within Ottawa County, from Chester Ray to Harbor House, Samaritas, Catholic Charities. We also obviously use drug testing with COVID in the last few years. We didn't drug test as much because we at one point we weren't allowed to drug test due to the nature of the drug testing, but we were able to implement oral testing with our offenders. For the year 2021, we did 2,000 drug tests. In 2021, 214 of those were positives. The number one drug we're encountering in the probation parole office in Ottawa is meth. Those were the bulk of our positive drug tests. And if we do find them treatment wise, we'll refer them either to outpatient treatment, intensive outpatient treatment, and or adult treatment court. We utilize that program quite a bit for our offenders who have significant drug substance abuse problems. Our offenders completed 8,000 hours of community service. Court services generally operates that for us. They'll make the referrals. The guys work at various organizations, churches, other community places like the Holland Rescue Mission, 70x7, to complete their community service hours. For the year 2021, we completed 520 PSI reports. Those are the reports after a person is found guilty of a crime. These reports go to the judge, the prosecutors, and the defense attorney. What these reports entail: their criminal history, a little background information on our offenders, such as their employment history, education history, and what their family life was like growing up. So these reports we send off to the judges, and then these will follow them. If they are sentenced to prison, they will follow them to their correctional facility. There they will use these reports to implement programming in the state correctional facilities. Total probation statewide last year was 31,000 offenders. Total parole was 9,000 offenders. And then we've seen a reduction in our probation statewide. We are down 10,033. That's a 24% drop to date. And we've been keeping these records since 2020. We've seen a reduction in parole. We are currently down 2,391 parolees. That's a reduction in 20%. And the overall reduction rate, total offenders, that means probation, parole, and prison, we're down 12,424. That's a reduction in 23%. For Ottawa County, we've seen our recidivism rate is 18.9%. Statewide, the recidivism rate is 23.6. So our recidivism rate is lower than the statewide average. How we measure recidivism is for offenders who have been convicted of technical violations or committed a new offense and were sent to a state correctional facility. The Michigan Department of Corrections keeps these statistics. We currently have 20 parole probation staff in Ottawa County. We have 6 staff in Grand Haven, 9 staff in Holland, and 2 staff in Ottawa, or in Hudsonville, excuse me, and 3 clericals that are used throughout the county. We collected 70% of all our fees that were owed to the courts last year. I want to thank the court clerk's office for assisting us with that. They do a tremendous job of setting up show causes for our offenders who are not in compliance with their payments. So that's a huge load for agents that we typically don't have to worry too much about the fee collection. That our court services here does a tremendous job. So, and I've worked in other counties where it falls on top of the agents. In Ottawa County, it's one thing that they take off our table where we really don't have to worry about it. We encourage them to make their payments. We will do wage garnishments if we know they're employed and they're being willfully delinquent on their payments. And the court clerk's office helps us a lot with that too. That being said, I'm going to open it up for questions right now.
Mr. Baum?
Heath, you had talked about electronic tethers. Once a person is off from probation, do they lose the tether?
Yeah, if they're off probation, yeah, if it's usually ordered for 90 days or so, it's not for, typically it's not for their entire term of probation. That's usually for a period of time, unless they're chronic, with technical violations, they just can't not stop themselves from getting in trouble, for lack of a better term. They can be on for their entire term. Parolees like CSC, those convicted of CSC first or anything, are on for their entire term. And then when they're off parole, they're required by law to be on lifetime GPS.
Anybody else? Thank you, Heath.
Again, thank
Appreciate
you.
Mr. Shea.
Thank you. Again, we'll be sending out some more detailed information on the groundbreaking ceremony for the Family Justice Center for Thursday, June 9th at 10 o'clock. I will let you know we had our first bid package opening earlier this morning. Bid package number 1 for concrete, roofing, fire protection, earthwork and utilities, asphalt and landscaping. And the actual bids came in about $1.1 million less than what we estimated them to be. So that's good. Now we still have to obviously confirm that those bids meet specs and our schedule. And I will note, for example, with roofing, the material costs there won't be finalized until the materials are actually delivered. So there's a lot of volatility in roofing materials, as an example. So they won't hold their price between the bid date and the actual date that the materials are delivered. So that could change a bit, but at least that's a promising start. We did post the deputy county administrator position last week. We received 8 applications so far, and the deadline to apply for that is Friday, June 3rd. So we'll be, as that date gets closer, we'll start setting up, evaluating the applications and setting up the interviews. Shannon is finalizing work on the next edition of the newsletter and finishing those articles. And the intention there is to mail out that newsletter around June 15th. And then the next meeting of the ARPA task force is this Thursday. And we're going to be speaking with everyone and just trying to get a sense of any projects that have been identified and whether or not they've been vetted. And so we can kind of get a sense of what's out there at the moment as we work through that process. So that's what I have for you today.
Any questions of our county administrator?
John, I wonder if I could ask, I know that our previous administrator would send out, updates maybe every 2 weeks or something like that. Is that something you're considering maybe possibly doing for us?
Yeah, I was just trying to see the best format for this. Is that like the digest are you referring to?
Yeah, right, I don't know what he would call it, but I know that he would send updates as to what's happening on the county level and so forth.
Yep. And that's something that, along with the other thing I could have mentioned too. Yeah, so I am considering doing that. I don't know if the format will be exactly the same, but we are re-implementing the in-person brown bag lunches. And if it's not next week, I think they'd start the week after. It'd be sometime in May to try to just have a little bit more communication engagement.
And I'm talking about the updates to board commissioners as well, not just to the public. But,
Okay. Okay. Yep, I can do that.
Anything else, guys?
We need to get them a new name plaque.
It's been ordered.
Oh, yeah.
Supply chain.
Supply
It has
chain.
been ordered. I told them they didn't have to put tape on it.
Duct tape next.
I said we didn't need to do that.
You get some brown paint, just paint over it.
Yeah.
General information, comments and meetings attended?
Had a chance last Thursday to participate in the groundbreaking for the new Allendale Fire Barn. It's a $7 million project. It was done, it's being done without any taxpayer participation, so to speak. It was being paid for by mostly DDA funds and then a very, very generous donation from Grand Valley State University. So we'll finally, after 50-some years, we'll have a new fire barn in our community. And then the second thing is, this is just preliminary, I'll have a few more details at our next meeting, but I want you all to save the date right now today, okay? Save the date for the first Monday in July. Allendale Charter Township, we always have a parade on that day, okay? And this year, we always have a grand marshal. That's usually somebody in the community that's done something or another along the way. This year, the Chamber of Commerce has decided to make our grand marshals our healthcare workers. Okay, we've been through 2 tough years and we all know that everybody suffered a little bit, but our healthcare workers have gone way above and beyond the call of duty. I think we all can agree to that. So we sold the idea to the chamber that we're going to open this up to anybody that's a healthcare worker, whether you're in the Allendale area or any place else, throughout the county, even into Grand Rapids. So you show up at 10 o'clock on the 4th of July. We're going to have 500 signs along the walkway, and they're going to get the honor, the respect, the claps, and the pat on the backs that they deserve. So that's and our little township. We think it's the first parade, the first really acknowledgement publicly of our healthcare workers. So we're very proud of that. So save the date. We'd like to see you along the parade route.
Anybody else? Well, seeing that there's no other agenda items and public comment, we will go to that. Anybody for public comment?
None on Zoom, Mr. Chair.
Anybody in the audience would like to speak to the board? Seeing none, we are adjourned.